The marble conference room fell silent the moment I walked in. 5 pairs of eyes turned toward me, my sister Diana in her Chanel suit, Marcus leaning back with that familiar smirk, and their spouses arranged like loyal soldiers. The mahogany table stretched between us like a battleground. "What are you doing here?" Diana stood up, her manicured hands pressing against the table. "This is a private family matter." I adjusted my simple black blazer. "Dad's will reading is in 10 minutes. I'm still his daughter, aren't I?" Marcus let out a dramatic sigh. "Come on, sis. Dad cut you out years ago when you refused to join the family business. You chose to be a financial advisor instead." He made air quotes with his fingers. "If that's even what you really do, you don't deserve to be here." Diana's voice dripped with contempt. "You abandoned the family. You walked away from everything Dad built. Now you want to share." I took a seat at the far end of the table, placing my briefcase beside me. The lawyer would arrive any moment. Years of preparation had led to this. I could wait. Diana's husband James scoffed. "Then why show up? To see how much you lost by betraying your father's wishes." The memories tried to surface. Dad's ultimatum 5 years ago, the screaming, the threats. "Join the company or you're dead to me." But I'd learned to keep those buried. Instead I stayed quiet. Silence was stronger than anger. Mr. Patterson entered with a thick folder. His eyes widened slightly when he saw me, but he recovered quickly. "Now that everyone's here, we can begin the reading of Harold Matthews' last will and testament." "She shouldn't be here," Diana protested. "Miss Matthews has every right to be present," Mr. Patterson interrupted. "Shall we proceed?" The next 30 minutes unfolded exactly as I'd expected. The family estate split between Diana and Marcus. The company shares divided equally between them. The vacation properties, the art collection, the cars, all distributed among the loyal children. My name wasn't mentioned once. Diana's smile grew with each bequest. Marcus kept shooting me smug glances. Their spouses sat there looking like they'd won the lottery. When Mr. Patterson finished reading, Diana stood up. "Well, that's settled. You can leave now. Unless you want to stay and watch us discuss our inheritance." I remained seated, my hand resting on my briefcase. "Actually, there are some documents you all need to see first." "Documents?" Marcus laughed. "The will is clear." "What documents?" I opened my briefcase with deliberate slowness and removed a thick folder. Every eye in the room fixed on it. "These are mortgage documents. Bank loans. Credit lines. All the debt that's been quietly piling up behind our family's facade of wealth." I laid the first papers on the table. The beach house? Remortgaged 3 times. The company? Operating on borrowed money for the past 2 years. And there's more. Diana's face went pale. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out another stack. "These show who owns all that debt now." "Who?" Marcus demanded. "Me." The room went completely still. "You see," I continued, my voice steady and quiet, "while you were all fighting over who'd get what, I was tracking every loan, every mortgage, every debt. Over the past 3 years I've been buying them. All of them." Marcus grabbed the papers, his hands shaking. "This can't be legal. Check the signatures. Check the dates. Check the amounts." I pushed the documents toward him. $12.4 million in total debt. Now owned by Matthews Financial Holdings. My company. Mr. Patterson leaned forward, adjusting his glasses. His pen slipped from his fingers and clattered onto the table. Diana's voice came out as a whisper. "That's impossible. You're lying." "Am I?" I met her eyes. "You knew I worked in finance. You just never thought to ask what I actually did with that knowledge." James stood up. "Whatever your price is, name it. This can all go away." I gathered my papers back into the folder. "It's not about money. It never was. The walk back to my office felt different than the walk to that conference room. I rode the elevator up to the 47th floor and settled into my chair, looking out at the city skyline as the afternoon light began to shift. My assistant Thomas appeared with his tablet. "They've been calling all morning. Your sister 6 times. Your brother 4 times. And Mr. Patterson has been trying to verify the debt documentation. And ironclad." Thomas set a coffee on my desk. "Every transfer is legal. Every signature is authenticated. The financial statements you requested from Matthews Industries came through as well." I pulled up the first folder on my screen. I already knew these numbers by heart. The mounting debts. The declining client contracts. The market value dropping 40% in 2 years. The company was bleeding out, and Diana and Marcus had no idea. My phone buzzed. Another text from Diana. "Please, we need to talk. Before tomorrow." I set the phone aside and opened my laptop to the document I prepared months ago. Matthews Industries restructuring proposal. Page after page of financial analysis, market projections, operational improvements. A plan to save what my father had built, whether my siblings understood what needed saving or not. Thomas appeared at my door again. "There's something else. Your brother's wife has been asking questions at their country club. She's apparently mentioned your name to several people in her regular lunch circle." I smiled. Of course she had. My clients ate at that country club, built businesses there, made deals there. The same social circles my siblings use for showing off, I'd use for building my empire. "What else?" I asked. "The Forbes article goes live tomorrow at noon. They'll see the full profile before the restructuring meeting." Perfect. By then, my siblings would understand exactly who they'd been underestimating. I spent the next hour reviewing every detail. The beach house mortgage, $2.3 million. The company's operating loans, $5.7 million. Diana's personal credit lines, $1.8 million. Marcus's investment debt, $2.6 million. Plus smaller obligations they'd accumulated trying to maintain their lifestyles. Each number represented a piece of leverage. Each signature was a connection to their reckless spending, their careless decisions, their belief that money would always be there because it always had been. Thomas knocked again. "The conference room is ready for tomorrow. 10 a.m. They've all confirmed." Good. I checked my watch. 6:47 p.m. Let's give them tonight to sit with what they know. Tomorrow they'll learn what they don't. After Thomas left, I pulled out an old photograph from my desk drawer. Dad, Mom, Diana, Marcus, and me at the company's 30-year anniversary. We were all smiling then, before money and power had twisted everything. My phone buzzed again. Another text, this time from Marcus. "This is ridiculous. You can't do this to your own family." Family. They only seemed to remember that word when they needed something. I thought back to Diana mocking my job at Mom's funeral 2 years ago. Marcus telling his friends I was just a banker at his wedding. The holiday dinners where they seated me at the kids' table. Each slight had fueled my determination. Not into anger but into focus. While they laughed, I learned. While they spent, I invested. While they burned bridges, I built an empire. I opened my desk drawer again and pulled out a different file. The founding documents for Matthews Financial Holdings, dated 5 years ago, 1 week after Dad's ultimatum. My first investment portfolio. My first client agreements. My first strategic partnership. 5 years of work compressed into folders and files. 5 years of 60-hour weeks and careful networking. 5 years of modest close and deliberate low profile, while my portfolio grew into something that caught Forbes' attention. My first major client had been a tech startup that became a billion-dollar company. They trusted me with their IPO. Success attracts more success. More capital meant more opportunities. And none of it had required my father's name or my family's money. I walked to the window and looked down at the city below. Tomorrow morning, they would walk into that conference room thinking they understood the situation. They would see my documents and think it was about leverage. They would see my company and think it was about revenge. None of them would understand that it was about survival. That when your own family tells you that you don't deserve your place in the world, you have to build your own world. My phone lit up one final time before I left the office. A text from an unknown number. Diana's husband James again. Whatever this is, we can negotiate. Name your terms. I didn't respond. I just gathered my coat and headed for the elevator. Outside, the city was alive with evening traffic and people moving between their lives. I walked through them invisible, the way I'd walked through my family's dismissal for 5 years. Tomorrow they would see me. But tonight they could sit with the weight of what I'd become while they weren't watching. I hailed a cab and gave the driver my address. As we pulled into traffic, I watched the city lights flicker on one by one, illuminating a landscape I'd learned to navigate on my own terms. By tomorrow afternoon, everything would change. The conference room was already crowded when I arrived at 9:58 a.m. Diana paced near the window, her designer heels clicking against the marble. Marcus sat rigidly in a chair, his usual swagger completely gone. Their lawyers huddled at one end of the table, papers spread out before them. Mr. Patterson sat alone at the other end, looking older than I'd ever seen him. I paused outside the glass wall for just a moment, watching them. Diana's hands trembled as she checked her phone. Marcus's jaw clenched and unclenched. James whispered something urgent to his wife, who shook her head in response. They'd had all night to imagine what this meeting meant. All night to think about the debt, the documents, the folder I'd opened and immediately closed. I pushed the door open. The room went quiet. My heels clicked against the floor as I walked to the head of the table and sat down. Only then did I acknowledge them. Good morning. I trust everyone's had time to review what we discussed yesterday. Diana's husband James jumped in first. This is absurd. You can't simply. Actually, I can. I nodded to my assistant Thomas, who began distributing new folders. These outline exactly what I can do. But more importantly, they outline what I'm willing to do instead. Marcus flipped through the pages frantically. What is this? A restructuring proposal, I said calmly. But first, you need to understand the actual state of Matthews Industries. I pulled up the financial projections on the large screen. The room fell silent as the graphs appeared. Declining revenues in sharp red lines. Mounting debts in ascending columns. Market value dropping 40% in 2 years. Failed expansions. Lost client contracts. 5 years of deterioration displayed in brutal clarity. That's not, Diana started. It's all public record, I cut in. Property assessments. Tax filings. Client contracts. Everything you could have reviewed at any point in the last 5 years. You didn't because you assumed the company was fine as long as money kept appearing. Marcus grabbed one of the printed reports. The numbers are different from what Dad told us. Dad stopped making the decisions years ago, I said quietly. These are the results. I clicked to the next slide. A single page appeared on the screen. The Forbes article headline, not yet published but visible to all of them. Rising star in finance builds secret billion-dollar empire. Diana's phone buzzed. Then Marcus's. Then James's. Their faces went white as they read from their screens. That article publishes in, I checked my watch, approximately 2 hours. By then, everyone in this industry will know exactly who I am. Every client you tried to impress at your country clubs already knows. Every business partner you've relied on has done business with me. Half of your company's remaining revenue comes from clients I brought in through referrals. Marcus looked up from his phone, his voice barely a whisper. While we thought you were just some financial advisor, I was building something real, I finished for him. Not living off Dad's name. Not playing with inherited money. Building. Diana set down her phone. Her hands were shaking. How much? How much what? Your company. How much is it worth? Enough, I said. Enough to own your debt. Enough to restructure this company. Enough to make sure it survives what you've done to it. Mr. Patterson cleared his throat. The terms of this restructuring are quite generous considering the circumstances. You're offering us a chance to stay involved, Diana said, but it wasn't a question. Under competent leadership, I corrected, you have two choices. Accept the restructuring, which means you maintain roles in the company while professional management takes over operations. Or refuse, and I call in all outstanding debts immediately. The beach house goes on the market within 30 days. The company files for bankruptcy protection within 45. Everything you inherited yesterday becomes nothing. Marcus leaned back in his chair, the fight completely gone from him. And if we accept? You learn how to actually run a business instead of just inherit one. I pulled up the next document, a detailed management structure, new operational protocols, modernization plans for core business lines. Everything I'd spent months preparing. The company has 3 months before insolvency becomes irreversible, I continued. We need to move immediately. Cost restructuring, client retention programs, market expansion into sectors your father never considered. It's aggressive, but it's the only path forward. Diana's lawyer leaned forward. What's her compensation in this arrangement? Controlling interest, I said. 51% ownership. The remaining 49% split between Diana and Marcus, provided they demonstrate competence for a minimum of 2 years. After that, we revisit the arrangement. This is blackmail, Marcus said flatly. This is business, I replied. The same business you mocked me for learning while you were busy playing executive. The next hour was a blur of whispered conversations, frantic phone calls to their own lawyers, and desperate attempts to find loopholes that didn't exist. I sat quietly, letting them come to terms with their new reality. Finally, Diana spoke. Before we decide, I need to know something. Why didn't you tell us about your success? I considered the question carefully. I'd known it was coming. Would you have believed me? I asked. Or would you have just found new ways to mock my choices? The flash of shame on her face was answer enough. We accept, Marcus said quietly. His voice was hollow. We don't have a choice, do we? You always had choices, I replied. You chose to dismiss me. You chose to mismanage Dad's company. You chose to live beyond your means. Now you're choosing to accept help, even if it's not on your terms. The lawyers spent the next hour executing documents. With each signature, I watched their old lives slip away. The unchecked spending, the casual cruelty, the easy arrogance. When the final page was signed, I gathered my folders. The new management team starts Monday, I said. I expect you both there ready to learn, not pretend. There will be weekly performance reviews, quarterly financial assessments, and absolutely no exceptions. Diana's voice was small. And if we refuse? Then you'll find out exactly how difficult life can be without a safety net. I paused at the door. But I don't think you'll refuse. Because deep down you know this company needs saving. And you're smart enough to understand that I'm the only one who can actually do it. They filed out slowly, their designer labels suddenly looking less like armor, and more like costumes from a life that no longer existed. Only Mr. Patterson remained. Your father, he said quietly, would be proud. I shook my head. Dad never understood that protecting his legacy meant changing it. That staying the same wasn't loyalty. It was destruction. He will understand, Mr. Patterson said. Eventually. I handed him one final document. Once the restructuring is complete, I'm renaming the company Matthews Financial Group. It's a new beginning. For all of us. That evening, I stood at my office window watching the city lights flicker on. My phone had been quiet for hours. No more desperate calls. No more angry texts. The Forbes article had gone live at noon, exactly as scheduled. By 2 p.m., I'd received 17 requests for interviews and 12 new business proposals. By 4 p.m., my inbox had crashed from client emails. My phone buzzed. Finally, a text from Diana. "I'm sorry. For everything. Can we talk tomorrow? About the company. About learning." I smiled and typed back a simple response. "My office. 9 a.m. Don't be late." I set the phone down and looked at my reflection in the darkened window. No longer the dismissed younger sister. No longer the one seated at the kids' table or left out of family photos. No longer the one they called just a banker. The woman looking back at me had built something real from nothing but determination, and the knowledge that underestimation could either destroy you or fuel you. I'd chosen fuel. My assistant appeared with a glass of champagne. "Congratulations, Ms. Matthews." I took the glass and looked out at the city below. Tomorrow would be difficult. Teaching my siblings real business would be harder. Saving the company wouldn't be easy. But as I stood there, I knew something with absolute certainty. Every moment of mockery, every dismissive comment, every family dinner spent at the kids' table had led to this. They'd thought I was settling for less by choosing finance over the family business. They never understood that I was actually choosing more. Choosing to earn my success rather than inherit it. Choosing to build something that couldn't be taken away because no one had given it to me in the first place. I raised my glass to the city skyline, to all the late nights and careful investments, to every client I'd served with respect when my own family wouldn't, to the quiet power of knowing exactly who you are even when no one else believes it yet. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's reconstruction. Building something stronger from the ashes of what was broken. Teaching people that consequences aren't cruel. They're necessary. Showing your siblings that you didn't come back to destroy them, but to save them, even when they don't deserve it. That's the real power. Tomorrow, Diana would walk into my office and we'd begin the real work. Teaching her how to lead instead of demand. Showing Marcus that respect has to be earned. Proving to both of them that the life they'd taken for granted had always been fragile, and that the only thing keeping it from collapsing was the person they'd spent 5 years mocking. I finished the champagne and set the glass on the desk. The sun would rise on a new day, on a company with a real future, on a family that finally understood the price of arrogance and the value of the person they'd chosen to ignore. And I would be waiting, ready not to destroy them, but to teach them that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is give people another chance, even when they never gave you one.